collaborating with Vicky has been a big part of supporting more business owners to get to grips with copy. So we've been running fortnightly copy clinics in Just Start Now for almost 3 years, I think. I don't want to actually look at how long it's been. Time flies and all that. And we co-created Copy That Connects earlier this year and did our first live round in February, I think it was, and that went down an absolute storm, and we just about managed to squeeze in another live round this year, which we are just about to kick off to help more business owners write copy that connects and get started.
Yeah, I love that. And I think we were both quite blown away actually with the response that we got the first time we ran the course, because and I think what I wanted to, when I was thinking about doing this interview this morning, was acknowledge that you and I really enjoy writing, and we talk about that a lot. Last interview, it feels very natural. It's something that, we weren't born knowing how to do, but we've practiced, and we've found the enjoyment in it, which is something we really try and bring to that course. But we know that's not natural and inherent for everyone, and it feels like this kind of resistance of, oh God, it's something I'm going to have to learn. And actually it was so enjoyable to see on that course people really step into enjoying sitting down to write for their business in whatever shape that is, whether they actually got something published on their website or sent out a newsletter, or just writing for the sake of writing something in their business. It really changed a lot of people, which was so wonderful to see.
Yeah, and I think because a lot of that was that we front loaded each week with mindset stuff and acknowledging where people were getting stuck and then trying to shift them through that. So it brought our blend of backgrounds and skills together to acknowledge the fact that it isn't, oh, you just need to sit and write, and if you have a formula then you'll get it all done. Well, it's not quite as straightforward as that for a lot of people. There is a lot of mindset stuff that you need to work through in order to be able to sit down and write something and not be overwhelmed by the fact that, because what we heard quite early on a lot of was, oh, it just takes so long.
Yeah. And also I thought one of the other overwhelming messages right at the beginning was when we said, why are you here and what stops you writing, was nobody's listening, or it's not working, it's not landing with people. And actually we really worked hard then with the content of the course. And if for anyone listening considering this, if they're thinking, that's how I feel about writing, what's the point, no one listens, no one cares, it doesn't work, it doesn't turn into customers, we really tried to, like you say, work around the mindsets and a reframe of showing up, enjoying the process, writing and trusting, and of course giving you tips as to how to write something that does connect with people. That was the whole point of calling it Copy That Connects. But that you don't lose faith in the process of putting pen to paper, putting fingers on keys, and actually getting something out there, because that consistency in writing is what's most important, and not to be dispirited or discouraged when something doesn't magically get your book, you're fully booked straight away with one email or one web page.
It's that old thing, isn't it, of waiting to feel confident before I'll do it. But the only way you're going to develop any confidence around writing is by doing it.
Yeah, and the only way that you'll get good enough to write copy that does convert and connect and get great engagement more quickly, and we can't say there's a guaranteed formula for doing that ever, is to keep practicing and to actually put out a lot of content that does sometimes flop, or have a bit of tumbleweed or go a bit quiet, and just be willing to go, okay, what do I learn from that? Keep going, keep trying, keep getting myself out there, and you've got to be in the right headspace for that.
And doing that with support and guidance shortens the timeline a little bit of the trial and error stuff, because we give you prompts and structures that we've seen work, and then if with the VIPs it was giving feedback the entire way through on everything that people were created, and really dialing up their messaging and their craft, and it was just really clicking for people. So Yes,
Yeah.
it was very exciting. I'm very glad that we're doing another live round, squeezing in another live round this year.
I know, it's some nice new people. And again, if you're interested in that and getting copy written for things like your website, for your emails, if it's something you're, I always said I was going to do a newsletter, I was going to start using my mailing list a bit more in 2023. Now is your chance with support. Like Lee says, we can, if you come VIP with us, we can give you feedback, and also writing for social media. So if those are 3 areas you want to work on before the end of the year, the doors will be open when you are listening to this. So the thing the last time you and I talked, Lee, we talked, it was 2 years ago when I looked. I was like, oh my God, it's been 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, what stayed the same and what has changed in those 2 years in terms of writing for your business, for example, copywriting, trends, techniques, like, people's attention span? There's this thing called ChatGPT that was kind of being mooted around the time we launched the course at the beginning of the year and has become much more prevalent. Like, what's still true for you, and what maybe, if anything, has changed across 2020 or the last 2 years since we last spoke?
I have to confess, I rolled and cursed quite loudly to myself when I read this question when you sent me the preparation. You already know my feelings largely around this one, but ChatGPT can frankly get in the bin. And we get straight to the point, I guess, really. One of my clients actually came to me after rewriting her website 13 times. 13 times. And that last fateful time was with the help of the chat machine.
Yeah.
She was more lost than ever before.
Mm.
And I think that's it's a really good case in point for the problem with following the hype fest and the trends. Her website did look beautiful, but it wasn't bringing her lovely new clients, and she felt really disconnected from the whole thing. And it was really because she didn't have the foundations in place. She didn't know who she was writing to and why she was creating all of this stuff, and then what her sort of core messaging was around that, her mission, all of that stuff. So,
which ChatGPT can't do for her.
No, ChatGPT has no brain of its own.
Also, that has to come from her. Like, who do you want to help? What do you want to do? What's distinctive and different about you? And what tone is yours?
Yeah. And obviously I'm poking fun at ChatGPT in particular, just because everyone knows ChatGPT. But the reality with these generative AI things is they can only spit out a response to your prompts. So what you get out is as good as what you're asking it, and it can only spit out at you what it's found and collated from what's already out there. So you're not going to get anything original from these generative AI things. You're going to end up sounding like everybody else. But it's your unique take and perspective, your complete human self, that will always be missing if you get AI to do the job for you. Now, I'm not saying there aren't useful applications of AI in your business, or completely poo-pooing it. There are obviously useful applications for it. Personally, I stick to using AI for transcribing because it speeds up all of that sort of admin-y work after conversations, and then I've got no blank page. I've got reams of stuff that I can use and go and tweak and fiddle around with. It takes away the blank page. It speeds up the processes. That's a great application of it. I think the thing with a lot of these sort of trends that we've seen come through is they can be a bit distractionary for people who are already feeling overwhelmed and kind of like a fish out of water. They take a lot of your energy and attention away when you've already got reams and reams of knowledge inside your brain. You could be putting that to work instead of figuring out these new things. There's no two ways about it. Learning the craft of writing takes time and can feel really hard. There are very few shortcuts, and anyone who tells you otherwise doesn't have your interests at heart, quite frankly. As old Mrs. Potts says, it's a tale as old as time. That's the truth of writing. It's timeless. No matter what comes through technology-wise, since we've had enough self-awareness and consciousness to set us apart from the other apes, we've found ways of communicating through and understanding each other with stories. And writing is what ties us together as humans. So yes, it's timeless, and no revolution in technology is going to change that.
Yeah. And I thought the irony in what you were saying there about using ChatGPT is it's only as good as the prompt you give it. And guess what you have to do to write a really good prompt? You have to write, like, you have to know what to put together, how to talk to ChatGPT in this instance, how to talk to AI in order to get the response that you want. Well, guess what? That's copywriting. That's writing. That's learning how to write to get someone to do something for you. This is why don't we just bypass that and actually you learn to write, to engage with a real human being instead, and learn how to write and practice, not writing prompts for AI, but practice writing words on your website or copy in your email or, you know, captions for your social media that engage real humans and get them to buy from you, like, you know, and to engage and talk and nourish and fulfill you. Like that's where I'd much rather channel my time and energy in writing than learning how to manipulate AI into giving me something, like you say, that's going to be quite generic at the end of the day, even if I do have the perfect prompt at the top.
Absolutely. Actually, Sammy pointed something out to me recently, and I've seen a growing number of people trying to raise awareness of this. The challenge moving forward is going to be maintaining trust.
Yes.
Whilst it's quite easy right now, for us at least, to tell which bits are human made, it's a bit like a fingerprint, really, I think, and which bits are machine made. If you're not paying close attention, then it could get harder. And then how do you know what you're connecting with is a person, real story, the truth? So being aligned with your values and sincere and standing in your truth and demonstrating genuine empathy is going to make you pretty much unstoppable moving forwards.
Yeah. And we know ChatGPT has a history of making stuff up, absolutely making up stories and research and data and facts. Certainly I know a lot of my nutritionist, health coach, personal training clients will say you can put something in and it just absolutely makes it up. So we definitely don't want that. And I did also hear someone say, if you couldn't be bothered to write something, why should I be bothered to read it? And there is that, like, if you don't care enough to write something from the heart, especially if you're writing something like a sales page or, you know, writing a lovely newsletter to go to someone, which you really want them to engage and talk back to you. If you can't be bothered to even spend 20 minutes, half an hour of your time doing that, why would someone spend 5-10 minutes of their time reading it? Which I think is really important. That all being said, I do think with ChatGPT and the way I've seen it over this year in particular, that blank page feeling that you mentioned, I think is really helpful. If you can get it to just, rather than you sitting there going, I've got to write a sales page, or I've got to write a caption for socials, or I've got to write, you know, put some words on a leaflet or something, I don't know what to write. If you can get good at getting it to at least take the blank page effect out of it, to just prompts or ideas or a few little suggestions. Even some clients say, they look at the session and go, no, these are all terrible ideas, but do you know what, that's made me clearer on what I do want to say, and then they get writing. That for me is quite a good application if it stops that kind of paralysis, freezing of it's a blank page, I don't know where to start.
Yeah, I think what
we're talking about is
doing a straight lift.
Yeah, which I think hopefully everybody agrees is not healthy and a good thing to do. And we can't, like we said, we can't really expect other people to want to be bothered to read it if we can't be bothered to write it.
No, and there is also a proliferation on the likes of LinkedIn of not just bots now, but AI generated comments. So it comes back to, if you can't be bothered to sit and write something genuine, if you really don't have the capacity for it, what's the point?
Yeah You mentioned there around the kind of ethics and you know, consciousness, ethical considerations. I know a lot of people, when we talk around what we go through in Copy That Connects is and things we do inside Just Start Now is help people writing things like sales pages and content that actually moves people towards wanting to buy from you. What kind of ethical, conscious considerations do we need to have in our writing? Because I know a lot of people come away from it and they think, I don't want to be pushy, slimy, don't want to be lying, I don't want to be over promising. Like, I can see other people's writing that apparently converts and connects, but it's not me. I don't want to be that. Like, what do you think we need to be aware of when it comes to writing, when we are someone we would consider ourselves to be ethical and conscious in our business?
Bearing in mind what we've already said, I don't want to be hugely repetitive. But I think this kind of boils down to three things. Firstly, concern around plagiarism, which is a real risk when using generative AI for your copy, because it can only draw from what's already out there, and you are very likely to get chunks of text that, if you just lift them and use them, could land you in hot water. There have been some notable plagiarism cases recently that none of us really wants to go there. None of us wants to end up in that position. So I think that's the first sort of ethical consideration. The second one around, you've sort of touched on it there, the sort of false promises, fake scarcity thing. I know gurus say you should give people that FOMO thing and play on this to get people to sign up with you. I always say that's kind of for the snake oil, guys. People can smell the fake shit a mile off. If there's a genuine scarcity, like you're closing the doors on a particular date, like we're starting the live cohort for Copy That Connects on the 6th of November, and that's likely going to be the last time in a long while that we're going to be doing this live, it's helpful to let people know so that they can make an informed decision. And I think that's where the line is on that one, really.
Yeah, definitely. And I've really noticed this when I did a kind of open door, closed door on Just Start Now, that it does, like, if you can do it from an ethical place, if you're, and also I'm aware, because we have advice in the Just Start Now community from Lucy Legal, who I will link in here. She talks a lot about faking scarcity. It's actually illegal to do that. You can't say doors close on this day and then carry on letting people in, or giving, you know, offering that discount beyond that date. You know, you have to do it in a very ethical and legal way as it happens. So I can see the real motivation of that, because it does get people to take action, but it's making sure that we're using that in a way that doesn't feel slimy and unreal, and we're kind of adding and bundling things in where there's not really any added value or any other incentive other than that person making money, if it's not actually the right decision for you. And I think the other area that I see is that you know, when you and I talk about things like sales pages or content in email or socials or whatever that says this is what this product can get you, or this is what this service can help you with, that we never say, you know, we're not guaranteeing, we're not promising, we're not especially with people's health, we're not saying we're going to cure it, we're not going to say you definitely will be fixed, but that it still needs to paint some kind of picture of what the possibility is on the other side of the tools and the kind of package of services and support that you're offering.
Yeah, I think what we're always clear about with that is that it's a two-way street. That they have to meet you halfway and do the work in order to achieve that amazing, beautiful transformation. You're not just going to, you know, wave a magic wand and it's going to happen for them. And I think, again, that's kind of where the line is on that one.
Yeah, and that we don't shy away from that, actually. You know, if that, I feel like a lot of people say, and I say, who do you want to help? And they say, well, someone that actually wants to do the work. I'm like, right, well, how do we call that person in the copy? And that you and I really advocate things like saying, this is for you if, this is not for you if, or, you know, really like just addressing those things. Like, if you're going to come on this program, you're going to need to do the work, you're going to need to show up, you're going to need to, you know, be in this kind of state of mind, or be willing and open to do X, Y, and Z that you might not have done before. So yeah, that we take that person on the journey, and the words can help us with that. I'm aware that I kind of sometimes interchangeably use copywriting and content writing, like slightly maybe in a murky way. I wonder if you can explain, and I think I sometimes see other people doing it as well. Like, what is the difference then between copywriting and content writing? Because again, I think especially with online business, we hear a lot about content writing and being a content generator and creator. And what is the difference, and why are each of those both important? Because I know we help people with both sides of that, really.
You know, we could probably dedicate an entire episode to just this part of the conversation alone, I'm sure. There are so many ways I could slice the answer to this, and ultimately, I'm not sure it really matters. Not in a big philosophical way. It's a really practical reality that so many people are tangled up worrying about which is which, rather than getting on doing stuff that pushes the needle. Reality is, unless you want to be a content or copywriter, or you want to hire one, the distinction is irrelevant. Honestly, it's really only something that those within the industry are impacted by. And in fairness, no matter how tightly people in the know cling to distinctions, the reality is that they are very loose. Some people say that copy is the stuff that's there to convert, like ads, and content is the stuff that's there to educate and entertain. But most of the stuff that we create blurs the lines. So an ad can be entertaining and drive conversions. So there's another way of defining it, which is that copy is the lasting, more foundational stuff that stays in place, e.g. your website wording, whereas content is the supportive stuff that you're constantly creating to funnel back into the foundational stuff.
Yeah.
The reality is that copy and content are really just words, and using them to help your right people find what they need, i.e. you. It's all just about starting a conversation and trying to keep that conversation going. Please, let's not make it any more complicated than that.
Yeah. And again, I think that this is it. Like, everyone's going to have their own way of explaining it, and other ways. So we certainly do within Copy That Connects. I know I try and explain content, for example, in 3 different categories. And again, I think some people can get really hung up on that. Like, oh, well, is it, I call them connection or recognition content. Is this connection, Vicky? Which is this? Is it connection or recognition? And in the end, I go, I actually don't really care. Like, it could sit in either. It could be, like you say, like entertaining and interesting, or it could be moving someone more towards making a decision to buy from you, that kind of recognition content. I literally don't care, as long as you could press publish and get it out there. Like, that's the more important thing for me. If you've written something, it feels good, it feels in alignment, it serves a purpose, it speaks to the person you're trying to help. I don't care which basket we're putting it in, which version it is, as long as you're sharing it. Yeah. Which kind of leads me on to, like, how do we tailor copywriting for different platforms? Because I know you and I are both a big fan. I'm a massive fan of saying, repurpose what you've written, what you've got. You know, you and I said before we started recording this, right, well, we can get a transcript of it, we could turn it into an article, we could turn it into a video, we can turn it into, you know, some captions or a graph. You know, there's different ways that we can now repurpose this conversation that we've had, rather than starting with a blank page. So repurposing, and then I think some people kind of panic and go, well, how do I change you know, a long form video content or a long form written blog, for example, a long article, into something shorter for social media, or something that will convert on my website? Like, what sort of advice do you have around that repurposing and tailoring and changing content for each different, or do we even need to?
I think what's really key in what you're saying there is the fact that we've done the foundational stuff first. So we know what our core messages are and what our mission is and who our ideal people are. So we have all of that framework in place, which kind of makes everything else slot into place really quite easily. We spiral out from the website, rather than, what a lot of people do is put all of their energy into creating for social and just constantly creating and churning, and then going, oh, I don't know what to say. Well, you haven't got the core stuff in place, and it's really difficult to stay focused and on track if you don't have your core messaging in place and the sort of positioning stuff.
And especially if you're like chasing an algorithm or doing what everybody else seems to be doing and copying other people and trying to play to what the social media platform rewards you with, that moves you really far away from, like you're saying, that kind of conversion style copywriting, the foundational pieces of what you're doing. You move away from, why am I doing this and who am I doing it for?
It's really all about having that conversation with one person in mind, which is a big chunk of what we cover in module 1 of Copy That Connects. And I feel like that takes care of a lot of the tailoring, because you can see that person navigating whatever space it is you're putting that message into and bring your core messages to the party. So I suppose with social media, you generally have clearer boundaries, such as character restrictions, which are helpful to some people. But I particularly love web copy and email copy and blog writing, because you get to call the shot with those. There are just so many different ways that you can slice everything that you create. I think you have to do it with solid foundations in place. And then it just all kind of flows and feels really easeful, rather than racking your brains and squeezing them out. So what do I create now and how do I use this? It's
and like trying to follow a trend or something. Someone did ask me that recently I was speaking to health coaches that had all just qualified, and it was, which areas are most lucrative and should I focus on? And I was like, I literally don't care. Like, I know there's other coaches in this area that will say, thyroid's really popular right now and weight loss is always great, and that will make you a fast buck. But if you can't keep talking about it, if you can't keep creating content, if you can't keep excited about it for weeks, months and years, I couldn't care less what's trending right now. I think the most important thing is your enthusiasm, your belief, your excitement for it. Because that will come through in your copy. And no matter how bad you think you are at writing, that's the more important thing. And we keep talking about those foundations, and that is literally week 1 of Copy That Connects. And even if you signed up for the course and you literally just did week 1, I think that will change how you write and how you think, how easy every other word you write for your business will ever become if you do that module. Because like you say, you and I have done that, and I feel like I never run out of things I want to say or ideas that do connect and convert for me, because I know who I'm writing for and why people should read my words rather than someone else's.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Okay, let's talk a bit more then about Copy That Connects and what else people can expect and experience in there. What did you really like? We talked a little bit about that at the beginning. What did you really enjoy from the first time we ran this? What are you looking forward to most running this course again next time? Like, maybe just to explain to everyone what the course is as well, and like what is it that they can expect when they come inside.
Okay. I loved everything about our first live round of Copy That Connects. Now, don't get me wrong, it was tiring and it does take a heck of a lot of energy, even splitting stuff up between 2 people to facilitate as deeply as we do with the live cohort. And yeah, I'm absolutely jazzed about all of the aha moments, the wins and the shifts that we saw just about every member of our cohort go through. And that felt like a win for the whole group every time. People were just actually pressing send and getting their messages out there, often for the first time, and that was amazing to be part of. A couple of people created and launched their entire website wording through the 6 weeks, with the help of the course materials, which is 6 modules or 6 weeks, weekly Q&A live sessions with us on the VIP version, and the ability to come into the private group space and share what they've been creating and get really detailed feedback to take it to the next level. So the kind of confidence boosts that we saw people have from that container just really made my heart swell with joy constantly. Seeing people saying that they were actually enjoying writing, which we both think is really the whole point, was absolutely magical. But I also found some of the challenging mindsets and questions that came through really quite fascinating. I'm always curious as to how other people feel towards writing. We knew that we were creating something pretty one of a kind when we started out blending mindset with copywriting techniques and approaches. But the feedback that we got, I think, completely echoed how needed this was and validated the hunch that we had that this thing in this way was needed. And as I've already said at the beginning, we heard a lot of writing just takes too long, or some variation on that. And I feel like we had to keep reminding people, both inside and outside of this container, that there are no quick fixes. The wellness professionals we had in this space regularly say this themselves about their own industry. But it was just funny because they couldn't see the parallel because they've been sold so many overnight success stories.
Yeah.
The true things are the same. This writing thing is a practice that takes practice, and the accountability we found that we were providing with the VIPs really, really seemed to help. What am I looking forward to? I'm looking forward to seeing a new group of people discover our simplified and still heart-centered approach to writing for your business, to seeing more of them learning to love writing and watching them unfold and start sharing their story with confidence.
Yay. I couldn't agree more. It was lovely, and especially some people really powered through and really used it as I'm going to get my website live and written by the end of the year. But the end of the year now for us, I think, is a really great motivation. By the end of this process, by Easter, I think when we ran it last time, and like you say, like people that were like, I've actually used my mailing list, I've started sending something, I've got a lovely format. And not being afraid to embrace enjoying the time to write. Someone did ask me that, I think earlier this year, how long does it take you to write, for example, a newsletter or a blog or something like that? And I think we all need to get honest about that. Does take time, and not feel resentful or annoyed about that, or that you're crap or bad at it. Like I would say, for me, writing a really decent blog that I think really answers people's questions and is formatted properly probably takes me a couple of hours. Like I time myself on quite a lot of my tasks. I've started really tracking my time this year, and I am not angry about that. I'm not annoyed about that. Actually, I appreciate I've done it for years. You and I met through blogging. We talk about that in the first episode. So I've been blogging since 2016, so I get that I am more familiar with it. I don't overthink it quite as much as some people might, but 2 hours might sound like a lot of time for some people, but I'm willing to do that because that blog is going to keep helping people, keep serving people, keep bringing me new audience, new mailing list signups, more customers years into the future. So I am very happy to spend that couple of hours doing that. And equally, a newsletter, email, on average, like if it's got some fresh content in there, 20 minutes, half an hour on each one. And again, I'm very happy if I can see an open rate of 50%. That means, at least half of my mailing list are reading it. There's some good clicks in there. It gets nice comments and feedback from people. I am happy to spend that time. And that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with me or wrong with the way I'm doing it and how I'm organizing my time. And I don't want to bypass it with ChatGPT to make that faster. Thanks very much, actually.
No, and you make the most of it by repurposing, which comes back to what we were already saying. That blog becomes a newsletter, or that newsletter becomes a blog, and then it gets chunked down and it becomes a bunch of social media posts.
Yeah. And we really talk about that in the course as well. So we will say, here's how, and yes, initially it's going to feel like it takes you a long time to write, for example, a sales page for your website. That might be several hours, let's say, and we give you a really clear template. We give you lots of examples. We can give you lots of feedback if you come on VIP to give you some more suggestions and ideas. But that might take a long time. But holy cow, can that create you lots of different content then? We say, right, now we're going to turn it into an email. Look, 80% of it's basically written. We're going to take it from your website, from the page you've just written. And then when we go onto socials, hey, guess what? 50% of that caption is already written because we're going to take those bullet points that you did from that previous page. You know, so much of it then is reusable, so that you're not taking loads and loads of time to write completely from a blank page every time you sit down. There's a formula and a format for that, if that helps you, if that gets you going, if that gets you sharing.
What are you looking forward to about our next round of Coffee That Connect?
I think it's nice that it's this end of year. If people are listening to this in real time, I know a lot of people in the Just Start Now community, and I know a lot of people I talk to on, you know, on socials and networking and things, have had goals for themselves of, I really wanted to get that done by the end of the year, or I really said I was going to commit to this, or I really said I was going to master this. And like you've said, I find it fascinating, other people that will sign up to other courses or other programs, and they know the theory of it, but actually doing it, and that for me is the bit I've really like gone deep on this year, is what stops you doing it. You know, that's why I'm training as a self-belief coach and trying to learn these tools of, here's the theory, here's the template, here's 17 examples of how people are doing it. What still is stopping you? It cannot be that you don't know what to write. It's something deeper there. It's something else that's going on that's stopping you. You know, so I think that for me, like you said, is the fascinating bit of what is stopping people, and how can we help them take some small action, give themselves a little experiment, something to do, to go, oh, actually, I can do it. It does feel fun. It does feel good. And actually, yeah, move forward a bit with it as well. Yay.
Yay.
Anything else you want to add? Anything else people you want to share before we finish? Obviously, like we said, by the time this is going out, Copy That Connects doors will be open. We'll be starting on the 6th of November, working through 6 weeks. So by Christmas, you will have covered all of the theory and the mindset stuff around writing for your website, sales copy, and any other copy. We're going to cover email, again, newsletter stuff, and sales copy, and social media content. So that is all covered by Christmas. You get lifetime access to the training and the resources to go through it. And if you want to come through with a bit of extra accountability, then we are there to give you as much feedback as you need. By the end of the year. Anything else to add?
No, I think you've said it all.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to get started with this and help people with it, because you and I love writing and love infusing that in other people and doing it in this rather unique way. So yeah, all the details are in the show notes if you're interested in joining us, or send either of us a message if you're not sure if it is right for you. Who would you say it is right for, Lee? Like, what kind of people like really would benefit from this?
Anyone that's writing for their business, pretty much, in reality, would benefit from this. We did gear it up for wellness professionals, so most of the examples are based on the wellness realm, but it is completely applicable across the board. I suppose, well, you've got a model for the stages of your business, and I think whatever the one at the early end is, you might have to tell me what that is.
Yeah, embryonic or fledgling, where you're just getting started. We can link to that kind of, even if you've just got an idea for a business and you don't know where to get started, or you think, I'm going to have a website, or I want to start sharing on socials, or build a mailing list, but I don't know what to say, this is great. And equally, if you've been trying for several weeks, months, or years to get a business working and it's not working, but you know the writing's missing, this can still really help.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, if you're doing it all yourself, which is necessary early on because budgets, and also how do you know what to outsource if you don't know how to do it, then I think this course is perfect because it gives you the grounding you need to tell your story online.
Yeah, perfect. I love it. Great. Well, we'll leave it there.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
Pleasure. Repeat guest, and maybe we'll return again very soon. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for joining us, Lee.
Thank you.